All right, I did it. I did it. I think I did it. I think I did it. Sorry, folks, I'm fashionably late. I actually just finished a show. Uh, well, let's see if I can get this thing going here. Let's see here. All right, I think I did it. It's 8:02. Ramy Allen's Comic streaming live from my living room, making Tuesday suck less. The lovely Mrs. Comic is in the house. I just finished a 30-minute babbling podcast appearance on a show whose name I don't even know. They're going to edit that, and it's going to be. I'll post it on my site. It's going to be happening, I think, Friday. Um, they were going to ask me a lot of questions, but I don't really like to let other people speak, so I don't really know exactly what happened. Mrs. Comic was kind of here and not here because I had to have earplugs in to hear them, so she could not hear anything they were saying to me. She could only hear me babbling. So I mean, she's used to that kind of, sort of, um, but I didn't really let them speak anyway, so it wasn't really that big of a deal. So that's why we're starting at 8 o'clock tonight. I tried like hell to have them record me on a different night, but do you hear them cats? That's Mary and Caesar getting ahead of themselves here. Um, but they're in a different time zone, and they think they have to have normal jobs, and so that was actually the best I could do, and so here I am. I made it. It's been really fucking nuts. If you, I don't know if the cats uh, uh, pick up on the microphone or not, but see, here's the situation. So Caesar, the rescue stray cat who's up in a tree, who has been living upstairs, and him and Mary haven't met. We were trying to whip our downstairs. I've got mess everywhere. I've got streaming equipment. I've got my Christmas tree up yet and shit. So we're trying to make this thing a little bit downstairs cat proof because Mary's like really chill. Plus, Mary is a senior, spoiled, rotten queen that we love with all our hearts, and he's kind of a big kitten, big strong kitten who never had a childhood, so he's still learning how to play, and we're trying to figure out how to get those two together. And so there's a lot of things you're supposed to do. Have them meet on other sides of the door. You hear that? And Caesar wants to play, and Mary would rather read. Basically, that's what's going on. So Mrs. Comic and I just yesterday just figured, fuck it, what would happen if we would just let Caesar down? We didn't really think it through that well because how I'm already a familiar to cats, as in like a familiar would be to a vampire. It's way worse now. I'm in a constant state of what cat is doing what, and Caesar really wants Mary to like him, and Mary would rather he just go back upstairs. So that's what's happening right now. So if there any violence happens, uh, that's what's going to happen. And on the show I just did, we were actually talking about how much shit can go wrong streaming live. And so I actually got to talk about you guys, my amazing unshun, how we are still streaming. And this backdrop here is exciting too because Caesar likes to jump up on the sofa and go behind this thing. So he might wind up scaring the fuck out of me later on. But right now he's over here tormenting Mary by rolling around and wanting to play. And Mary's like, it's going to be a bourbon night. That's what's going to be happening there. And I'd like to point out at the bottom of that table is a catnip ball, which is probably bad planning on our. But Rick, if you're in the house, I told the story on the other podcast of bourbon balls was created during live stream, trying to figure out how to live stream. And I was moving a frame around, holding a bourbon, and I started to watch myself on a time delay, and I actually spilled bourbon on my balls and said, uh-oh, I have bourbon balls, and that became like a famous thing. So since they're in a different time zone, bourbon balls now has a shot at trending across the country. So I'm very excited about that. My nerves are shot. Mrs. Comic's nerves are shot. March is typically the greatest money season of the year for me. This March sucked batshit balls. I lost a show. I actually had to cancel a show, which was horrible to do, but it was the right thing to do. And so I am struggling to throw together a whole bunch of little $10 ticket tour shows, and it's really a lot of work. And I gotta babysit those people because they're always trying to pull shit off. Mrs. Comic is not ignoring you in the chat. She's trying to uh, orchestrate these two cats from not killing each other. Um, so that's new. If you were going to show off for the live stream, doing it over there really doesn't help the show at all. So that's been driving me nuts as far as trying to, to put shows together. And as soon as I think I have one thing solved, the next thing creeps up. A show that I had done a few times pre-pandemic, they could cram like 90 people into their bar, and so that factors into whether I can do it or not. So I hooked one of those up. Now suddenly they can only hold 65 people, so that fucks me up in a bucket of goo, paycheck wise. Just trying to straighten a whole bunch of that shit out, and so I'm not really right in the head right now. I don't know why I picked yesterday. I had 5 crazy shows to get launched, including making the artwork, creating the events, networking with how everything would work, and it was really a lot of fucking work. So yesterday I decided that we'll let Caesar down. It was the dumbest fucking idea. I think I did it to get out of doing the work. So now here they are. If I seem distracted, I totally am, because now as soon as Mary's over there going, ooh, they're like warning. I don't know what the hell they are. And as soon as I stop for you to hear her, then she stops. So that's sports, as I used to say. Hang on. But yeah, this show that I was on, they were really nice to me. I like when they let me babble on. There was a little action over there. Mary, I'm proud of you for holding your ground. Caesar, I warned you that you were pushing your luck, and soon was going to come. So the fun thing is now, to go back to Mary's the best. We love her so much. She was feral. She came in from the outside. Caesar was a stray, and he's just a big, fun, klutzy kid who's just figuring out what kittens can do. And so the problem in this house right now is that Caesar learns by mimicking, by mirroring. So I think that's how he wound up here. I think he just followed Bearcat into our backyard. So Mary doesn't want that much to do with him. Caesar wants to just follow everything Mary does. So Mary comes up on my lap. Caesar wants to come up on my lap. I don't have. This is a one cat lap, is what we got going on here. So that becomes fun, and they're still. They almost have like a little. It's like those things in movies when the tough guys, they look at each other and they stick their faces and then they seem like they're gonna kiss, but they really want to beat the fuck out of each other. That's kind of what they're doing. They get close enough where you see, oh look how cute they're getting along. Actually, no, they're not. So that has made some more excitement going on there. And Richter, a few of these ago, I was talking about how Caesar makes these giant piss balls in the litter box, and I said they were like asteroids, and then I said they were like pisteroids. So Mrs. Comic was taking care of his litter box upstairs, and I was taking care of Mary's down here. Now all hell's broken loose, so She missed a session up there. She's really smart. He realized that she missed a session and he actually tapped on the pooper scooper while I was sitting on a fucking toilet to remind me that when I was done wiping my own ass, I had some litter box duties to do over here. And his pistoroids were actually so big and heavy, they're kind of like little bowling balls. So while we're dealing with that, I don't know what we were thinking. Um, I'm not going to have much time to read. Caesar, you're pushing your. Mary's doing like a. It's kind of like a mad symphony here, but so far, uh, there's been no bloodshed that I'm aware of. So I I'm sure I had things I was going to talk about, but again, leaving one show and just starting the next one right up seemed way easier than it is. So there's that going on right now. I will check my notes here. I have so many things to tell you about. But also, I get to brag about why I love doing this is because we hang out. I tell stories. Sometimes I get to twang material a teeny little bit. Um, Caesar does go behind this curtain. I'm so paranoid he's gonna scare the fuck out of me when that happens. So we we actually like doing this for a whole bunch of reasons. Not the least of which would be occasionally there's some money involved, so that's fun too. But those are my notes from something else here. Cat circus mode. That's what happens right there. Oh, I know what's going on. This is the weirdest thing. Um, we have friends that are gamers, and it's like role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, like but on crack. And that's Crenshaw's world. I can't play those because I actually don't have the commitment of brain power. I think I have the brain power, but I can't. I'm incapable of sitting and focusing and concentrating on something like that. So I would be bad. I would fuck it up. So our daughter was watching. They're actually, I think they're comedians. They actually play like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of game. Uh, what's the channel? Dropout. It's on Dropout is the channel. It's a subscription service, but it's really cheap. It's like $5 a month, and the artists all get the money. So I actually watch them a teeny tiny little bit, and they run into all kinds of problems, and then they just like fucking roll the dice to solve their problem. So I'm thinking I want to come up with some sort of Amish role-playing Dungeons and Dragons game. Like Stoltz Foots has a dilemma because he built an outhouse and he didn't get a permit. What's going to happen? He rolls the dice, fucking go to jail, go directly to jail. I don't know. So that's going on, and I'll probably never do it because I'm already like 19 things behind schedule here of what I would like to do. Oh, I know. There's a. I'm trying to have themes of things in my show, and so many of these things go back to the Klee days, and that's where our friend Frank comes into play. I got so focused on Klee stories, which are fucking incredible, and I'm gonna have to make sure they get written and those stories told. But Frank pulled a lot of shit off too. So when I met Frank, I actually was working part time at a record store, and everybody we were a bunch of potheads and hippies. He seemed too good to be true, and I was right about that. He was Klee actually named him the deviant accountant. That's what his name was. He goes, you fool, no man, you're like a deviant accountant. So there was a lot of fun stuff running around in those days. Even when Klee went off to San Francisco or wherever, whenever that happened, I can't remember. But there were a lot of adventures with Frank, and what Frank would do, he would tell me to do stupid shit, and I would just do it. And nothing major, but enough stupid shit to cause stories for right now. One of the examples is that he moved up to Connecticut He used to call me the troublemaker, that I had a magical ability to say the wrong thing at the right time to cause death and destruction. He was in this area and he found a new job in Connecticut, and he'd drive up every weekend to try to find a home up there, and they're kind of expensive. And there was Hartford, and then wherever else he was, maybe Danbury, that was a choice. And so the one place was really squeezing him, and they turned on the charm. And I didn't know this. The weekend he went up by himself, they spent like $200 on like a meal for him. And then he said he was losing his mind. Would I come up to next weekend with him? Which I did. And when we met the $200 dinner lady person, I didn't know that there was a $200 thing. And she said, "Hi, who are you and what are you doing here?" I said, "Oh, I'm just his friend. I just came up because I heard there were really excellent free meals." And that kind of fucking flatline, because he didn't fucking tell me about the $200 thing. So in those days also, and this is a little sad for me because I miss it. We had, Mrs. Comic and I had an old Volkswagen bus, and it was orange on the bottom and white on the top, and it was the most fucking wonderful hippie wagon there ever was. They were air cooled engines, which means the heat was also air cooled. They were fucking cold as a fucking refrigerator in there. There was no air conditioning at all either. So when Frank moved up to Connecticut, apparently um, they weren't really recycling. We were recycling down here. Up there, all the bottles and cans had deposits on them, and they were kind of weighty deposits, 5, 10, 15 cents, 25 cents. So Frank saved all these up in 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 garbage bags, and he had to put them in his basement because he was in a condo where they got pissed off if you had shit on the lawn. And so he was all excited that I would take this Volkswagen bus up to Connecticut. We would load it up and fill the thing with empty cans and bottles, as much shit as we could, and he would make $3.5 million on this. So we loaded up a Volkswagen bus. If you haven't seen one, you have a lot of fucking shit. And there was so much that we couldn't even close the side door with the bottles and cans, and we loaded all this shit, and he wound up with about $18, which really didn't cover my gas fee. Now that is the worst of the Volkswagen bus stories, because I was driving us all to the beach. I don't know why he'd just say, "Let's go to the beach," and then we'd go to the beach, and we were cheap pricks, so we spent most of that day running from the beach tag police because we didn't want to pay fucking $4 to be on the beach. So it was hotter than hell. We were coming back. Mary's getting worked up. I'm in the Volkswagen bus. Got a carload of really hot people with sand, and the toll booths. Then no air conditioning or nothing. We're having a conversation about it's. Um, we had Mrs. Comic's kids were little. We took them to the beach. They were actually, well, my kids too, but I got them. It was a package deal. So we had all these kid toys, squirt pistols, and sand shovels and all kinds of shit. So at the one toll booth, he said, "Why don't you take the coins and put them on this toy shovel?" And just with a real serious face, pass them over, and they'll take them out of the shovel. Well, so I did it, and I don't know how he knew this, but the person in that toll booth was really fucking afraid to take the money off a kiddie sand shovel that was on the beach, because somehow that made me look fucking crazier than I actually looked. So I did shovel, right? And they, with all kinds of reservations, took the money off the shovel, and then somehow that made us all laugh because we're silly and immature. Now, that's where the story should end. But then the next conversation became to the next toll booth. It's probably really fucking hot in there. It probably really sucks. And Frank said, "I bet they would actually be happy if you squirted them with a squirt gun with cold water in it. And so I didn't question this logic at all because I'm thinking it's probably really fucking hot in there. And if somebody wanted to blast me in between the eyes, so me, and this is all, mind you, this is pre 9/11 because now I would still be in fucking jail for this. We pulled up to the toll booth and we filled this thing up with actual cold water. And I said, it's probably really hot in there. And I picked up my squirt gun and I blasted them right in the face. They did not see the humor in this at all. I don't remember exactly what happened. I know, but they didn't call the police. I didn't get sent to jail. I didn't even get a fine, but it was not something that I would suggest I ever do again or that any of you ever do again. So if you're wondering if that would be a good way to cool someone off in the toll booth, blast them with a squirt gun, no, that's a bad idea right there. So now, this brings us to one of my favorite Frank stories, and it's not really, it's one of those you really had to be there kind of things. So, we had a small circle of friends, and Frank had some new friends up in Connecticut, and one, his name was Howie, and so Frank was getting married, and so we were having a bachelor party in Connecticut with me, Frank, Howie, and Inky, sidekick from Pennsylvania. So we drove up there, and we just went to we just bar hopped. That's all. We didn't even go to strip clubs or nothing. We just bar hopped around the neighborhood, and so we're at this one little corner bar, and the bartender was starting to get nuts. Oh, I know what we did then. We started smoking. We said, let's start smoking. So we went and we chain smoked cigarettes at the bar, and we started coughing, and we developed lung cancer, smoker's cough, and we quit. We kicked the habit all in like 3 packs of cigarettes. And we had so much smoke, but we're such fucking idiots. So now that wasn't even the thing that upset the bartender. The bartender was really upset, and I could see he's upset. And then he goes, I said, well, what? Are you upset from our smoking? He said, no, I can't find my fucking, the drink. It's like a drink strainer. It's metal. It's like a little horseshoe thing, and there's springs that go around it, and then you do this. Apparently, you need them to make certain drinks. And he said, I'm like fucking sick of these things around. Now I can't even find one. So I'm actually helping him look around the bar for these things. I mean, that's really weird. And I'm quizzing, where do you remember the last person you got a drink where you used one of these? Maybe you set it down over there. This became a mystery. And so we left. I'm staggered out of there, and it was cold out. It probably was winter time, and I was hearing as I walked like clanking metal sounds as I walked. I hear Frank taking his drink strainers and putting in. I had 6 fucking drink strainers in my left winter coat pocket because Frank loaded up my fucking pockets. I feel like we should go back there and return those. So in some ways I shoplifted, but in other ways Frank didn't actually steal them, but he was an accomplice. So again, yeah, I didn't know. How the hell did I know? I wasn't going to drive back and say, "Hey, it turns out I was the guy that stole all your drink strainers." So we had some fun days with Frank running around. I think I got some more notes here somewhere. As I said, I'm really nuts right now. I'm losing my mind here. I told the Baltimore stories, I think, last time. But yeah, and Frank was also part of the group where when we got together with Clee, and people just say, you go into a bar in an area that you're not used to, and people say, hey, how are you, and all that shit. There was always a story. And they made up the most ridiculous stories. One of my favorite ones was that they said that I lived in the woods, and I was just out for I was home for 6 weeks or whatever, and I built trails, and they didn't believe me, and I actually had really good calves, and the bartender wanted to see my calves to verify the story of did I really live in the woods and build trails. And my calves were good enough to get us round of free drinks. I'll tell you that. Um, Again, Mrs. Comic is walking on pins and needles here because these two cats in this room. All right, so what we're going to try to do, we're going to try to get Caesar to make his debut on camera. Here we go. Well, yeah, it would have to be on camera because he's actually making his debut right now off camera. So I'm going to put these treats over here. And of course, the only way he'll be able to get them is to climb across my balls. And he's got really big fucking claws. So what we're going to do here is... What do you think there, buddy? You got to come up here? I'm not really good at calling a cat because it's actually right there. What do you think? Come on up here. Because it's just a live stream show. There's really no urgency. So I could just sit here with this cat treat in my hand all night long. So I'll lower the first one so he knows what's in there, right? So here we got that, right? Right, now he understands the system. But I know because I can see where you would be confused, Caesar, because we normally do this on the toilet. I actually don't sit on the toilet. Not on the toilet, in the bathroom there's a stool. See, I can get him up here now. You coming up here? He's actually looking at the screen of me when the real me is here. You can do it, mister, you can do it. Come on up here. Look, it's on my knee. How about that? Would you come up here? Where are you going to get live entertainment like that? Me, unsuccessfully trying to lure a cat to my lap with a treat. You going to do it? He's thinking about, if you have anywhere you have to go, because, I mean, he's close to doing it. Oh, Mrs. Comic coming to the rescue here. Here we go. See? There you go. There is Caesar, the cat, who thinks my naughty bits are a toy when I get out of the shower. The cat who is terrorizing Sexy Pants a little bit. Now, he sees the treat jars over here. What if I put it here? Look at it. If I put the treat jar right on my junk, that should be, you know, we will never be a trained animal act, me and this guy. Are you coming up here? Wait, I'm going to jump over this wire. Hang on. That's let me move my headset. Here. Come on, Caesar, you're fucking up the big finale. You are fucking up the big finale. This is your debut. At least Mary has the decency on her big finale to run on camera and show her ass. I want you to come up here. You can do it. Or, that's another thing cats sometimes do. They can't figure out how to jump up somewhere. Like, he's actually going farther away. Got my bra straps falling down. Now he wandered back. This is really bad. This is bad entertainment. He's done. All right, here, take that. Now I have cat food hands. So here's this. Mrs. Comic, who tried so hard to help the content of this show, knowing that I was so desperate that I needed a cat to come in. But you did get to see Caesar. You did. Now he would like a delicious taste of my wet wipes. So there's that. I don't have the slightest idea. Look, I've only been babbling a half hour. So let me take a deep breath here. That wasn't that deep. I'm gonna drink some water here. Now, he ran off. Mary was close, coming on my lap. But she's looking for the treat that I threw for Caesar. She found it. It's right there.
Oh, good.
We might get Mary. Right? It's possible. I don't know. If I get confused by looking, because the image of me that I see is opposite of what it actually is. My right hand is there, and I think it's there, and it's over there. And if I actually drink the treats instead of my water. Somehow I'm gonna fucking blame Richter. So there's that right now. Now Caesar made a comeback here. Caesar trying to figure out what I did with the treats. Mary's trying to figure out why the fuck do we have this other cat. I really just went better at rehearsal. When we had a bear came in here. Caesar. All right. So now I gotta do this. I gotta cat food my hands again. Mrs. Comical Girl in the other room and make sure they don't kill each other. So there's that. That's what's been going on here. It's been crazy. It's been actually really crazy. I'm not actually used to working clerical work. I had to lay out artwork for tickets. I was so fucking mad. I was gonna cartoon them, which I didn't. But now I want to see if I can find some actual comedy entertainment here. Let's see here. Get your Amish Dungeons and Dragons. Let's see here. Oh, I know. It's not really all that fun, but in my search to dick around with stuff here and tying it into my show, I forgot something that I used to perform that's gonna need a little bit of polish, but shunning, to my way of thinking, is completely overrated as a punishment. I don't know how they believe it works. Shunning is basically ignoring. That's what that is. And you can't eat with your family. You can't talk to them. You can't really have anything to do with them. And if it happens to teenagers all the time, Amish teenagers, and then when you move to the city, you realize shunning would be a city teenager's dream come true. Because if you want to have some fun with a teenager, that just, you can't say go to your room, because they would fucking love that. That's the whole bit right there. The Amish, you say go to your room, there's nothing in your room. But still, it wasn't that bad for me because at least there were no farm chores in the Amish room. There's nothing. I didn't even mind just staring at like a blank wall, imagining that there was a TV there. I didn't even really feel the need to diddle myself because the emotion was too similar to milking a cow. So if you actually want to punish city teenagers anymore, you don't let them go to their rooms. So you are grounded and you're going to have dinner with your fucking family. That's what's going to happen to you. You can sit there and just, listen to your father piss and moan about how much he has to pay for your unlimited data plan, and you can tweet about it, but you're going to fucking listen to it. So there you go. That's an unpolished version of that bit. I made some poor choices on the bra strap level here. I hope you guys are doing well. I don't really have anything all that exciting to report other than I launched a whole bunch of these fly by the seat of my pants shows. So they're going to be coming up. The Emmaus Theater show tickets went on sale. That's for last Friday in July. And I don't think there's anything else going on around here locally that I can for. Let's see here. Bibbity bobbity boo. That needs a rewrite. I'll tell you one thing. I'm gonna hit some drink tonight. Oh, I know it's kind of crazy pants. I probably talked about this before, but this time of the year, from the Lehigh Valley, if you have to drive west on Route 78 from about 4:30 to 7:30, it's fucking horrible. It's the worst. The sun sits. I talked about that. Never mind that. Plus, if you're not gonna drive it, what's the point, right? What's the point of that? So here we got that. Here we got this. All right, here we go. Look at this is so unprofessional. I could not get the cat to eat a treat off my lap. So here we go. Mrs. Comic's running around trying to keep the cats from murdering each other. Are there any requests for stories? Now that's a terrible thing to say because also Mrs. Comic is in charge of seeing the chat and saying, oh, somebody would like to hear this story. And she's running around chasing cats. So if you request a story, there'll be no one here to tell me. So cats are in a peaceful way right now. That's wonderful stuff. Um, oh, this is not even funny. It's just adorable. So our grandson Hank, the cat that our daughter has, he wins at best cat in the universe. I don't care. I know I always say people say they have the best dog in the world. Impossible. There can only be one best dog. Hank is the best cat in the whole world. So now they got him as a rescue cat. I mean, they actually have an adorable cat, Heidi. Now, if you get a cat from Lee and Lanny, people who helped get Caesar out of the tree, you are getting a cat who has graduated cat transition from outside to indoor academy with flying honors. They nurse them. They get them fixed. They show them how to live in a house with other people, with other cats, and they when you get a cat from them, it's it's fucking good to go. So they have an adorable sweetheart right now, Heidi, and she's what people want when they want a cute little adorable cat. I wound up. We love Caesar, but we wound up with the big, strong, uh, teenage baby bully here who's afraid of his own shadow, and he's walking around. So Heidi is now up for grabs, and if you're looking for an adorable cat, but I gotta warn you that they don't just give their cats to anybody. There's a process because they want their cats to go to assholes, which is kind of amazing that they let me have Caesar, because I just fucking barely made it through there. While we were over at our daughter's home and her partner's home, and
Might be Hank's sister.
it might be Hank's. That's right. The cat Heidi might be Hank's sister. So if you got this cat, you would sort of almost be related to me because if Hank is my grandson and you got a relative of Hank, so Hank took to us right away. He was really afraid of people, and so he went into a home with adorable couple, my daughter and boyfriend, and only one of us was home for a lot of the time, so he wasn't really used to commotion. And so when they got Hank, he came with a dragonfly toy, and he was just a little fucking kid, and he loved this thing so much he ripped the fuck out of it, and so we had to get him. We got him a replacement one for a Christmas gift. He ripped the fuck out of that, and now he's been around a couple of years, and so that toy got put on the way back burner, and he likes other things that make him go nuts. There's a wormy thing, and he loses his fucking mind. Mrs. Comic went to the way back of the drawer and got the Dragonfly toy, which hasn't been out since they're in their home, and that's a year and a half now. And he went up in his carpet bowl, and he didn't play with it. He curled up and he started purring at the toy. Mrs. Comic pulled the toy out for our grandson Hank, and he melted. He's purring. Oh, that's a toy that I liked when I was a little kid. That melts my fucking brain. That absolutely melts my fucking brain. Cannot end my live stream on that story, especially if I don't have a Dragonfly toy to play with right now. So there's that. Oh, I will leave you with this. Again, I'm sorry about starting the show late. I'm sorry. I said sorry. If I was drinking, this wouldn't happen. Just so you know that I didn't have more stuff prepared. But so Mary's getting up there in years, and she doesn't like to have the same meal twice, and she's a real handful to try to get her to eat stuff. She went through all the favorites, and Mrs. Comic said Mary used to like to rip the heads off rabbits. So maybe outside. Yes, outside, not inside. I wouldn't throw rabbits in. That's a good point because they don't know how nuts I am if I'm throwing rabbits around the house. But Mary actually used to like to rip the heads off rabbits, and sometimes they would be a gift. But she said it very seriously. She said, I don't really know what to feed Mary. And she said, Mrs. Comic said, Mary used to really love to rip the heads off rabbits. So maybe she'd like some rabbit. And we got some rabbit, dehydrated, freeze dried, whatever the fuck it is, and then you mix it with water. Mary actually really loves the rabbits. So Mrs. Comic is really rocking the nostalgia of cats. There's Hank with his toy when he was a kid. There's Mary, who loved to rip the head off rabbits when she was little, and now she's having rabbit stew. And then, because I'm silly and immature, and I didn't want her to get sick of the rabbit stew, there's a duck version of that. And I know it seems like a violation of my vegetarianism, but it's already a duck thing in a thing. So now Mary is like a cartoon where it's rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, duck season. You get it? Some of this shit's only funny to me, and not even really that funny to me. So there's that. Uh, there's no good endings to this. And
End with rabbit heads.
no, I can't end with rabbit heads.
But you could.
That's a bad way to end stuff. But the longer I take to find something really funny to end my show on, the longer it will be before I'll get to have some bourbon my own self. So right now, I'm fucking myself with my bourbon balls party by not having anything really fun to say. Now, this is really a panic scenario right now. So I'm really going to solve this shit, because I'll tell you something else. There's that. No, that's way too far back there. So that. 98. I did the Baltimore shit. That's no good right there. Let's see. I made notes for the podcast that I just did. I didn't really tell any of these stories at all. So there's that. Bibbidi bobbidi boo. Oh, again, this isn't really anything, but I'm gonna glue this thing on. So we were having conversations about some people don't understand cats. I don't claim that we understand cats, but see, cats have this thing where our cat wizards, Lee and Lanny, say, you got to read the room. A lot of people don't like cats because when you want a pet, you want to cuddle it and you want to just grab it and hug it and kiss it and love it. But if the cat isn't in the mood for that, they will slash the fuck out of you. It's the weirdest thing. And then when they're in the mood for that, then you'll know. And they'll, well, when they're in play circus mode and you try to pet them, they will slash. And Mrs. Comic is way braver than I. She tries to get them to do the lovey-dovey thing more often than not. And she'll read the room and she'll know when to pull back. But I'm a fucking coward. I will wait until they're totally knocked out and really want to be pet. But then Mrs. Comic, brilliant comedy mind that she has, we were talking about, well, when the cat's doing circus, and you try to pet it, it's and then you just rip the fuck out of you. And Mrs. Comic said, what if people were like that? And that's a brilliant comedy idea to write with, because, if you're going to spoon, are you going to cuddle? And it's always nice and you return the hug. But if you're not really in the mood for that, and then Mrs. Comic comes in for the spoon and the hug, motherfucker, that's a fucking great idea to write comedy for. So that's all I got. I got really nothing left. I really want to have a bourbon. I'm glad I could sneak this in tonight. Mrs. Comic, did you
Happy
know?
early.
Oh yeah, happy early St. Patrick's Day. Clee's sister wished us one in the thing. I didn't even tell you, and I still don't know why anybody would want to have green beer. That's the dumbest fucking thing there ever was. It's food coloring, unless somebody actually made green beer. That's kind of weird too. But happy St. Patrick's Day, and that seems like it's a whole week away. I still don't have a show coming up this weekend, but I got a lot more fucking shit going on now, so I'm kind of sort of happy, but I'm still nuts. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. So I'm definitely going to get back in here. I made a plan that I didn't carry out yet. The plan was to try to write something from my book and then do a special extra live stream where it was just going to be story or a couple stories from my eventual book. And it would really be awesome if I had one of those stories ready right now to read, but I fucking don't. So there's that. Um, I'm going to leave you with that. Let's see. Caesar's looking at me. Oh, here's a trick. Cat people, here's a trick. Again, Mrs. Comic. So when the cat's not in circus mode, right? It's not in circus mode, and they're kind of winding down, and they're staring at you. Mrs. Comic told me that if you stare at them and you close your eyes slowly like that, you can sometimes knock them out. Or in the case of Caesar, he could view me as a squirrel that's prey and I'm sleeping and it would be a good time to kill me. So if you do that trick, just be careful. We love yous. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry the show was late. And sorry it wasn't really anything except me pissing and moaning about this and that. Uh, so, I mean, that's really it. I didn't even have time to put any fun stuff in my uh, pictures. What was in there from last week? I don't know. Oh, that's me from the thing. So, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna wrap it up. I love you. I really love doing this. I'm gonna get my. I keep saying I'm gonna get my shit together, but I don't really know if that's true. So have a wonderful week, and I should be back on schedule Tuesday next week, 7:30. You folks rock, and don't forget the time change already happened, and some of your clocks haven't been changed, and you might not have the extra hour that I thought I had. Stream ending right there. Bye.